Morning and welcome to Sports Physiology Class 2. And let's begin with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Father, we do thank you that we can come to you and just cry out and ask for your help and your direction in our lives. And thank you, Lord, for making us fearfully and wonderfully in your image and in the image of God. Lord, you created us male and female, and teach us to walk in honor of that, and give us wisdom and maturity as we discuss some of these issues, as it is focuses on sports and training and strength training, and how to train ourselves and then also care for others and students and others that we might be coaching possibly in the future. And Lord, I just ask that you would give us wisdom today, and that you would just direct our conversation. And thank you so much for loving us and caring about us and making us in your image. And we just ask that you bless this day, this class, in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, the thing that I thought important today, and the reason that I gave you Psalm 139, isn't that you have to have this memorized by next class, but the portion that I was looking at was basically verses 13 to 16, and I'll just read them real quickly. And it's my intent that every class I'll pull a different passage of Scripture that talks about how the Lord made us. And it is very important for us to have that first foundation, because we can look at our world and see real quickly people don't have hope, people don't have understanding, because they have no idea where they came from. And without that truth, things can get mixed up really quickly. And for us to know that someone made us, someone had an intent and a purpose and a design for what he made, gives us hope and helps us when we're going through different things in our lives to realize, why do I have this struggle, or why do I have this weakness, or why do I have this strength, or why was I made this way? And we can realize, and that's my desire, to hit different passages of the Scripture that says why the Lord made us this way. And it's not to bring glory to ourselves, as the world says. Tighten up your bootstraps and go make something of yourself. You know, I'm all for hard work, but and that comes in sports. Okay, what's one of the most predominant statements when you look at sport training or major league sports, major league level sports? What do they say? The first thing is, in order for you to succeed, you have to do what? Work hard, right? Those that really make something of themselves are the ones that are dedicated, right? And work hard and put sports before everything else. And but there are those that do have a right perspective too. And so that's encouraging when you see Christians standing up and saying, you know what, God's first, and then my family, and then my job. And so that's, we're also going to touch a little bit on that throughout this class as well. We're talking specifically about how our bodies are made and designed as we're approaching sports, to get a better understanding of those things. But we're also going to go all the way back and say, why were we made like this? Who is in control? Is it us or is it God? And the passage reads this: for thou hast possessed my reins. In other words, the Lord is in control, right? If someone's in control of the reins on a horse, right, they're in control of that horse, okay? Thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You can spend a lot of time thinking just on those two words. We normally boil it down to wonderfully made. What does fearfully made mean? To fear in a reverential way of fearing, There's two types of fear. There's fear being afraid, and there's fear, a right perspective of authority, right? And you guys have a perspective of authority. Well, if I don't do what my instructor tells me to do, I'm going to fail this class. So that's a good fear of, okay, I need to do what I'm told and respecting of authority. But then there's the fear of the boogeyman or the dark or whatever that we can be. Snakes. I'll raise my hand to that one. Okay, I had a dream, I think just last night, and I woke up. Anyway, I don't like snakes. Okay, for those listening, my phrase on snakes is God cursed them and so do I. So that's what I believe with snakes. But that's not the type of. It's not talking about a fear being afraid. In this, it's talking about we were made fearfully in God's image, and that's something to study and think about what that means. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. Deep down inside, our souls know that we're made in God's image, and that God is in control. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God, how great is the sum of them. And then it goes on, declaring the greatness and the glory of the Lord. And, whether we think something is of no significance or not, that's not true with the Lord. And whether we think that we have the body that we want to have. I wanted to be, 6 inches taller. I'll raise my hand to that. Or look the way that we want to look, or look the way that the world says is pretty or handsome or whatever the fact might be. Those are just things of the world, and those are lies from the devil and from the pit of hell to distract us and to get us focused on things that aren't important. What is important is that God loves us. He made us exactly this way for His purpose. And when we can accept that and surrender that to Him, then He can use us. And so that is some of the base of what we're going to be talking about, not only today, but throughout this course. And we have to know why we're here. We have to know that the Lord has a purpose in what we're doing here. And then we have a freedom to be able to do that. And so, okay, if you have a 3x5 card, pull that out. If you don't, a half sheet of paper will suffice. And if you could, that's fine. Rip that out and rip it in half for me. Your name and date on it, because if you turn it in without a name, it's a 0. Because if effectively you didn't turn one in. Name, date, and what it is on everything that you do. Okay, not only in this class, but in all your schoolwork and in everything that you do as far as recording things at home. You guys are getting older, so in short time you'll be having your own bank account and being responsible for things. Some of you are in 4-H already, where you have to keep account of things, and if you don't put your name, your date on it, or what it was, then you can quickly lose track of it. So in this class, if you turn things in without your name, I may give you a warning, but it's quite possible that it is just like you didn't turn it in. So normally I'll say, there's one with no name on it. You better jump up and get your name on it right away. So, okay. That's why I say 3x5 cards, because they're just a whole lot easier. You don't have to worry about ripping paper in half and all that kind of stuff. So, me. still talking a little rough due to my cold, so. Okay, and if you have your name, date, and quiz 1, that's what it is. Name, date, quiz 1 on that, and then number 1 through 6 for me. Okay, and the one question from this book, and the main thing that we're going to be talking about this year, I want question 1, define for me the word physiology. I'll say it this way. Physiology is the study of blank. Physiology is the study of, and it's not a one-word answer, it's a couple words. Physiology is the study of blank. Fill in that blank. Question 1, define what the word physiology means. Physiology is the study of what? You took notes on this last week. You read it in your reading.
Am I supposed to say
Gonna be no, don't say it. We're just taking a quiz, so we'll go over all the quiz questions after you hand the quizzes in. We'll go over them all because obviously we're going to be lecturing on a lot of this as well. So, okay, question 2. True or false? There is no standard age at which a child can start a resistance training program. Is that statement true or is that statement false? There is no standard age at which a child can start a resistance training program. Is that statement true or is that statement false? We're going to get into a lot of those discussions today. That's a very good principle to remember. Is that a true or false statement? Three, another true and false. It is okay to impose a training program designed for adults on a child. Is that true or is that false? It is okay to impose a training program designed for adults on a child. Is that true or is that false? Think about the majority of your reading. And we're going to find out if you read or not, because that's what this quiz is designed to do. Number 4, fill in the blank. Blank has been defined as the progress toward adulthood. Looking for a word that was italicized in your reading. Don't say it out loud. Blank has been defined as the progress toward adulthood. And I'll tell you right now, it was the predominant focus of chapter 2 from this book. It's also stated as the blank process. What process has been defined as the progress toward adulthood? And number 5, this is kind of a yes or no. Can strength training be useful for children that have not reached full maturity yet? Number 5, can strength training be useful, strength or resistance training be useful for children that have not reached maturity yet? And we're going to delve right into this. Will be the majority of our discussion today. Number 6, did you read all 4 chapters of your required reading?
That's the question.
That's the question, yes or no? And if you just go for the right answer, then I'll let the Lord be the judge as far as your conscience. So, yes or no, did you read the 4 chapters that were required for reading for today? So hopefully, you always get one right on these quizzes. But hopefully you'll get more right, because if you did read, you should be paying attention as you read as well. Okay? Any other questions on those? All right, hand those in if you would, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, physiology is the study of what?
Body and how it functions.
Good job. The study of the working. I'll give that one to you. Physiology is the study of the body and how it functions. And then putting the word sport in front of it, sport physiology is the study of the body and how it functions as related to sports. So, I didn't have all my questions written down. The second question is there, I know, I got to write all these down. Is there a standard age? There is no standard age at which a child can start a resistance training program. And that is true, because what's one of the main things that we're going to be talking about today and the reading covered?
The age.
About the age. Is there a certain age that everyone is ready for certain types of training? No.
There's certain training levels.
There's certain levels of, it's called, one of the principles that we'll cover is the individual response, right? Every individual is different. And the body goes through a maturing process, and that's also different in guys and girls. And it's also different in all of us guys, because some of us mature quicker. I matured very late, so others mature quicker. And so the process of what type of training that you put on children depends on where they are in their maturing and not what age they are. So that's very important to remember. And of course, it is not okay to impose a training program designed for adults on children. So you guys got that one right. Definitely something that you want to remember. When you guys go to the gym or whatever, don't just grab a program designed for adults and start going at it, because your bodies are different, and your bodies are not to the full place of maturity. And again, even at that, training exercises should be individualized for your needs specifically, and for what you're trying to do to exercise. And we'll talk about some of the training today, as far as muscular or strength training versus energy fitness, or aerobic or anaerobic type of training, because it depends what you need. If you're going to start a training exercise or program to lose weight, that's going to be different from a training program designed for an athlete to gain weight, right? Because you look at most athletes and what are they trying to do? They're trying to get bigger, stronger, faster, right? And building muscle is about twice as heavy as fat. Okay, not exactly, but muscle is definitely heavier than fat. So in that training process, the processes are different for everyone, and especially for younger children. You're not trying to get huge muscles. You're trying to make sure that they can use what they have, and there are different levels that you go about doing that, because if you haven't reached full maturity yet, you don't want to damage the body in the processes. And some of your reading was about that, how and what's the one sport? It's a Olympic sport that you can look at and say that sport can really, really harm the children involved in it. And you can, there's one sport.
Heavy lifting thing?
Well, there's heavy lifting that can definitely damage, but those are normally adults doing the heavy lifting. I'm talking about children. Gymnastics. Okay? Especially the young ladies, they put them through training programs that it hurts their body in the maturing process. And they're not able to mature properly because of all the exercise and the physical regimens that they're doing. And it can be the same for young men as well, but not as harmful to the process. And so you have to be careful. And a lot of these studies are coming out now, and unfortunately in some of the countries it's more important for the country to look good than what they care about their actual athletes, and that's sad. So that is something also that we want to pay attention to, because it's not a certain age, and that's exactly what we're talking about. It's not a certain age that you can start implying things. Everyone's different, and you have to pay attention to each individual person in the process of their growing. So what was the second chapter about? What was the predominant focus? What is defined as the progress toward adulthood? Maturation, maturing. And you could put growth and development. That would have been fine too, but the maturing process. Okay, the maturation process is defined as the progress toward adulthood. And the fifth question, yes, it is helpful. Some strength and resistance training can be helpful, even to students that have not reached the process of maturation yet. But it has to be done in a proper way. I normally take the road of staying away from weights entirely until your body's mature enough to be able to handle it. There's a lot of other programs out there that take a different approach, especially football programs. They have kids on weights way too early in my mind. But what is the rule in the book that they stated? Can anyone tell me as far as what should be the process for younger athletes if they are doing strength training? How many reps? It said you should be able to do weight about 6 reps. Okay, so in other words, they don't want you maxing out. That's a type of a pyramid workout when you are older, and we'll talk about that later, where you start with like 10 and then go to 6 and then 4 and then 1, and you're trying to reach your maximal potential. You definitely don't want that type of training for a younger athlete, because you're not trying to grow, to get bigger and to grow lots of muscle. You're trying to use the muscle and be toned in the muscle that you do have. And that type of training is perfectly fine. But it's just, I knew what I was doing. I was a PE minor, and I still hurt myself with weights in the gym. You know, it's just so easy to hurt yourself with weights that I would prefer that especially young athletes and younger children not even worry about weight training. You can do plenty of stuff with a dip bar, with a pull-up bar, push-ups, and using your own resistance type of things. Trust me, if you're out doing 20 chin-ups and 30 or 40 dips and 50 push-ups and then some type of modified crunch. I don't like sit-ups. Sit-ups hurt you. And it does more to hurt your back than to help your stomach. If you want a tight stomach, then run. That's really all you need to do. But you can do all those things without touching weights and doing possible harmful things to your body with doing an improper weight for an exercise. That's what I did. I ripped a muscle group in my shoulder because I started a new exercise and it was starting with too heavy of a weight. And so it's just so easy to hurt yourself with weights that I would normally stay away from that. But it can be useful, especially under proper supervision and for a proper purpose. Always purpose. It needs to be purpose in everything that we do. If your purpose is just to get stronger and to look good, to be ripped, then more than likely, not only might you hurt yourself with weights, but you're definitely going to hurt yourself spiritually and emotionally as well, if that's your only purpose for it. So, and very, very important to read. The whole reason that you're taking this class is to learn, and if you don't read, then you won't learn. So, good job on the quiz, and we'll get right into the continuation of our lecture. For those that were taking notes last week, did we stop after the first two principles of training? We did specificity and overload, and is that where we stopped? We were talking about when we were talking about overload, we were talking about intensity of training, but that we didn't get to adaptation yet.
We only did specificity and overload.
We only did specificity and overload. Okay, great. That's what I have, but I was just double checking to make sure.
Right. We talked about specificity, overload, frequency, intensity, duration.
Frequency, intensity, and duration were all under the overload principle. Those are all three different ways to overload. Frequency, intensity, and duration. Okay, principle 3. Specificity and overload are by far the most important. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why? Why? Why are the principles of specificity and overload the most important? What does specificity mean again? We talked about it last week.
The training specifically for your sport.
Training specifically for your sport, right? I just got done saying there has to be a specific purpose for what you're training or exercising for. And you're training specifically for your sport, so the exercises and the routines that you do are going to be paying attention to all the motions that you need in that sport. So that by far is one of the most important. And the overload, why is overloading important?
Well, when you're saying a soccer game and they have overtime, like shooting, your body is just trained for that.
To go over the limit.
Right.
Your body is trained to go beyond what's expected of it, so it can definitely perform. You need to go 100% and then beyond. Like, what's the saying in sports? Give 110%, right? To give all you have and then beyond. And so your training does that so that your body is not only able to perform what it needs to do, but it can go for and that's what duration, a longer period of time or more intense, so that you can definitely do the things that are expected of you in that sport. Okay, so when we get into the principle of adaptation, what do you think adaptation means? What word is that? Adapting, right? So what does the principle adapting mean?
Adapting to the sport without going into it too fast.
Adapting to the sport, or now we're talking about training, specifically on training. So adapting to the training. Your body is adapting to the training. You also want to adapt to the training without going in too fast. That's exactly that's perfect, because you look at your end result. Okay, if your desire is point A to point B, and you want to get here, okay, you're starting here though, right? So do you do the exercises and everything like that you would be down here? Well, you have to start down here and work your way up, right?
Yeah.
So if you start a training exercise and a program designed for this person down here, not only will you kill yourself, okay, but you're going to more than likely hurt your body and more than likely stop the desire to do it anymore, because you put way too much pressure and strain on the body to do that. You're gonna hurt yourself, and you can also discourage yourself in the process, thinking, "Oh, I'm never gonna get there." But if you set goals and exercises that are at your level, but then we're using the principles of specificity and overload. What is overloading? Even if I'm doing a schedule here and I'm using the overload principle, I'm slowly going up, right? Right. When one of the things that you remember in training is to do what you can and then a little more. Okay, when I after college I had my shoulder injury, and then I kind of allowed my body to just lapse and didn't do anything for about 2 years, and so I got way out of shape and overweight. And when I started my a exercise program to get back in shape, I couldn't do a single pull-up, not one. And I'll just use this example. How did I start to do pull-ups? I started at 0. And for 2 weeks, I struggled to do one pull-up. Actually, it only took me 3 days. I was struggling the first 2 days, and I'd do 3 sets of whatever it is that I could do. So when I was at the gym exercising, most of my exercise was focused on aerobic things because I was overweight and I was trying to cut weight, but then also build muscle. So the first couple weeks of my program was mainly running, and so I was doing the treadmill, I was doing the bicycle, I was doing the rowing machine, and then I was also doing all kinds of rubber bands because I was rehabbing my shoulder at the same time. So I was doing all kinds of rubber band stuff to get my shoulder back in, and that was great because it was getting my body adapted again to training that I hadn't done in about 2 years. And so with my pull-ups, I would do 3 sets of struggling. And someone tell me what helps your body more, actually doing the exercise or struggling through it? Struggling through it. Okay, when you struggle, you're actually ripping more muscle, and that's how your muscle grows, by tearing it. I know it's kind of disgusting, but you're actually tearing more muscle, allowing muscles to grow through struggling than you are through actually being able to do an exercise. And because if I just am going like this, it's just regular and normal and I'm not doing anything. But if I'm sitting there going, I'm doing more. Don't forget to breathe when you do that. But I'm doing more to allow my muscles to grow in the future than I would be actually just doing the easy exercise. So I would do 3 sets of struggling, and the first 2 days, that's what I did. I just struggled to get one. On the 3rd day, I did 3 sets of 1. And then the second week, by week 2, I was up to, I think, 3. And I just kept going that process. I would do 3 sets of whatever I could do, and I would struggle into that last 1 or 2. And so that's overloading. That's doing what you can and going beyond. And it's also adapting to what your body, the adaptation principle is so important because our body is adapting to the training. So our body's changing as the training is progressing. Plus, we also have to adapt the training process as our body changes. So it's kind of hand in hand that our body's changing as we train, and we also have to adapt the training as our body's changing. So it's kind of on both sides of the spectrum. So the thing I want you to remember about adaptation is this phrase: subtle changes take place in the body as it adapts to the added demands imposed by training. Adaptation. Subtle, and subtle is spelled S-U-B-T-L-E.
S-U-B?
S-U-B-T-L-E. Subtle changes take place in the body as it adapts to the added demands imposed by training. Subtle changes take place in the body as it adapts to the added demands imposed by training. That is adaptation. And we're going to roll right into principle 4, progression, because that's what we were talking about. Adaptation focuses mainly on the changes that your body's going through. Progression focuses on the changing that the training is going through. So progression, training must be progressive. It is a step-by-step process. It cannot be rushed. Okay? Progression. Training must be progressive. It is a step-by-step process. It cannot be rushed. Earlier we were talking about, and Joe brought up the point that the adaptation principle is that your body is changing to the training. Well, progression is the principle that the training is adapting to the way that your body is changing. So progression is the process of the training getting more rigorous and changing as your body changes. So it is a step-by-step process. It cannot be rushed. If you try to accomplish training too quickly, the body will break down, and that's just the way it is. So I already actually told you an example of progression. You progress. You kind of stay with the same thing for a period of time. And depending on the training program that you're in and what you're trying to accomplish, I normally would at least do the same reps or the same things for 1 to 2 weeks, depending. Some things that, because of my program, my weight started cutting down and some of the other areas started increasing quickly, so some of the areas increased a little quicker. Some of my training programs and things that I had actually stretched out a little bit longer, just depending on what. The other thing was I knew what I could do years before, so I was pushing toward that. And so sometimes things are going to progress quicker. Sometimes things are going to progress slower. You just have to take, again, in the individual response, which is principle 5, individual response. Athletes respond differently to the same training. Know that phrase, individual response. Athletes respond differently to the same training. Athletes respond differently to the same training. What are some factors? Can you guys think what are some factors that would be included in this? Why do athletes respond differently to the same training?
Different maturity level.
Different maturity level, that's one. Okay, metabolisms or heredity, your genetics, your genetic makeup. We'll get into all the slow twitch muscle fibers, fast twitch muscle fibers, all that kind of stuff.
Slower, not as focused.
Okay, so you're talking about
Coordination.
coordination or even emotional type of factors. Okay, personal or emotional type of factors. Very good. What about diet? What they eat? Actually, diet, I never say diet is what you eat. Diet is threefold. When people say I'm on a diet, what do they normally say? What do they mean by that? I'm trying to watch what I eat. Okay, diet is threefold. Diet is what you eat, how much exercise you get, and how much sleep you get. And if one of those three is out of whack, you're not going to have a good diet. Okay? If you're not getting adequate exercise, eating properly, or getting a good amount of sleep. So some of the other, we talked about genetics or heredity, the maturity level, diet, and their meaning in that word, what you're eating. And don't forget sleep. Okay? If an athlete is not getting the proper amount of sleep, is he going to be able to progress as quickly as others? No. Because you must get sleep in order for your body to grow. Okay, it's very important, especially I'm dealing with all teenagers here, that you guys get your proper sleep, especially if you're exercising. Okay, you need it anyway just because your body's growing and changing and all those things, but if you're exercising too, your body needs time to shut down for your muscles to adapt and to grow and through the process so that you can keep growing and progressing. There's also environmental factors too. Training is going to be different for those in Denver, okay, than down in Florida or in Texas. You might think, well, Texas and Florida, they're both at sea level. What's the difference between Texas heat and Florida heat? Or Arizona heat and Florida heat? Someone tell me.
One's really dry.
One's really dry and one's really humid. Okay? That's why a lot of training facilities are in Florida. A lot of training facilities are in Denver. Because if we can train in really humid environments, the body is, it has so much humidity that our body's getting used to that. If we can train in Denver at a mile high that has less oxygen in the air, then our body's getting adapted to being able to do the normal things asked of me with less oxygen. So there's environmental things as well. And also, students' attitudes are going to affect how they progress in training. If they're not willing to do things, then they're not going to do well. It is unrealistic for coaches to expect all their athletes to respond similarly to the same training program. And so that's just the thing that you need to remember. Everyone is different, and you need to make sure that you're making training programs when you guys are looking at a training program for yourself, that it is specific to your needs, to how your body is made, to your weaknesses and to your strengths. And so that's the things I wanted to cover in that. Okay. Principle 6 is the variation principle. What do you think that means? What's variation mean? Variety? What's variety mean?
Variety of.
You get a variety pack of chips. What's in a variety pack of chips? Several different kinds. So you're not getting just bored with regular chips. You get Doritos and you get barbecue and you get sour cream and what's the vinegar, salt and vinegar. You get a variety of things, okay? So variation training programs must include variety to keep athletes interested and to avoid boredom, okay? So write that phrase down. Training programs must include variety to keep athletes interested and to avoid boredom. One of the main concepts that you need to remember with this is work and then rest. Work and then rest. Hard and then easy. Hard and then easy. So you want to, if you're focusing on sprinting for a week of training and you're dealing with soccer players and you're going to do a lot of running this week. Well, what are some ways that you can vary that? Because what types of running are needed in soccer? Every type, right? Short bursts and then endurance of just jogging and not stopping. So what type of training can you do for soccer if you're focusing on? We're going to focus on running, all the different things of running this week. What are some things that you can do to keep variety? Just think of some. You guys have done some.
Suicides are good for sprints.
Okay, suicides are good for sprints. Those are down and backs for those not familiar with that phrase. Line to line, okay, so you're focusing on sprints. So if we do a line to line or sprints, then what will we do after that?
Take a jog.
Okay, either take a break or take a jog. What's another one that we've done before that kind of encompasses both? Because when you deal with soccer, and we actually did it before, where our coach loved us, but we would we would jog for 45 minutes straight. And in that jogging around the field for 45 minutes straight, it would be a light jog. But then the person in the back of the line had to sprint to the front of the line, okay, called Indian run, or some of them it called some different things. But so someone is always sprinting during this drill, but most of the people are jogging. So that that is a great training, variation type of training for soccer, because normally for 45 minutes in soccer you have to be jogging some type of jogging, normally a light jog that you're getting back into position, but then there are times you got to burst and sprint, and so you want to do those type of things, a variety that again is sport specific, right? So you're thinking of the sport that you're doing, but also you're doing variety type of principles in training, and you can do it in one exercise like that, or you can do sprints and then do something different afterwards that might be a little easier if you just did something that's hard. So you don't hit them all with hard things right away and then kill them so that they're no good for the last half hour of practice or the game. You train with variety, not only to avoid boredom, but to avoid injury, and so that they're growing, because your body needs time to rest as well. And so that's the other principle of variety too. You have to remember in training not to put too many hard things back to back to back, because your body needs time to rest. You need oxygen, you need some water, and those type of things as well. Though there are times too that you have to work training to be able to jog for 45 minutes without getting a drink of water, because it's possible you can't take a water break when you're on the soccer field on a 100-degree day. Now there's sometimes if there's a break in the action for injury or something that you can run over to the sideline and get a quick drink of water, but it's possible that you could be going for 45 straight minutes without being able to drink water, right? So you have to also adapt that into your training, making sure that, okay, for this 45 minutes, we're not going to allow, unless someone's falling over, in dire need, or someone has heat stroke or something like that. But you see, there's a balance, because you're trying to get your athletes ready for the sport that they're going to be playing in, but you don't want them to die at the same time. So you have to progress them toward that thing, so that at the end, they're able to run for 45 minutes straight without getting a drink of water, so that they can do it in a game. or maybe even start at less, depending on the ability of your students. So, okay, principle 7, and I'll roll through these. I know we're losing time. But the warm-up and cool-down principle. Okay, you guys have been involved in my sports clinics for a while. You know that this is one of the most important things that we spend, half hour to 40 minutes on our warm-up, because I think it's that important. It's incredibly important to warm up, and we'll spend a little bit of time on cool down, but it's also important to cool down so that our bodies are getting back to the way that we need to live. And again, what you need for your body is going to be different than what I need. Okay, I know my needs. That's why I do a long warm up. Some of you might not need as long of a warm up, and that's fine. But when I get involved in sports, and I used to play at a high level, I would know that I got to get to a place where I have that first cramp in my side, and then I'm good. So I would actually warm up until I felt that first cramp in my side. And that might mean jogging before a softball or soccer game for a half an hour, or exercising, or doing sprints, or until I feel that first little pain in my side, and then I know, okay, now I'm good, because I'm to the place where I get that first little cramp out of the way. Now I'm warmed up, I'm ready to go, and I can go at full speed. Because you don't want to have to spend half the game or whatever getting to that place that, okay, now I'm ready, and you not only hurt yourself but hurt the team, depending on the situation, because you didn't get your body ready to where it's ready to go full speed before the game. So a warm-up preceding strenuous activity prepares the body for exercise and reduces the risk of injury. Okay, so the warm-up focuses on preparing the body for exercise and reduces the risk of injury. So that's what the warm-up focuses on. You're going to want to pay attention to that. Warm-up prepares the body for exercise and reduces the risk of injury. A warm-up prepares the body for exercise and reduces the risk of injury. And if you read your reading, you'll understand that different coaches have different philosophies with things. And with our soccer and basketball and even baseball, I normally allow you guys to do some basic things before we even stretch. Not strenuous, but taking some shots, doing some passing, doing some jog a lap. Get your body kind of in the flow of things and then stretch, because some coaches have noticed that they actually had more injuries in their stretching than they did in the game or the sport, because you're going from cold to then all of a sudden let's stretch, and you can pull things just by doing that. So a lot of times now they'll have you do some basic things of basic jogging, or like in basketball, shooting some free throws or some layups, or just getting your body kind of loose and then go into the full stretching things. So again, you need to focus on how your body is. A lot of times, if you know I need more of this, then you need to take advantage of that and do that. And pay attention to your athletes as well. If athletes need help in, designing a warm-up specifically for them, that they need to do additional things than what the team's doing, then you need to help them with that. Not only look at yourself and say, I need to do these additional stretches because I have this injury or whatever. You need to focus on that. A cool down helps the body remove waste products and returns the body to its normal condition. So a cool down helps the body remove waste products and returns the body to its normal condition.
Helps the body use waste.
A cool down helps the body remove waste products and returns the body to its normal condition. So these are going to be things that are decreasing the intensity. Okay, so if you were just, the last thing that you did was one of the most intense type of things, you were doing suicides or sprints. Okay, those are very intense type of things. Well, then you need to focus on some specific things to decrease that intensity for those students, because, now they're going to go back to their normal thing, and your body's all hyped up. So you got to back off the intensity and bring them back, because it does two things. It does help the body remove waste products, so that were generated during the exercise, and it also bringing the body back to its normal condition. Even with that, some of the things that you have to remember is that's a process, because you don't just stop intense training and then go back to normal things. What's the one thing that it's killed people, especially a lot of runners, where you could have a heart attack after having a full workout and a run and then jump in a cold shower. Right, what's that do to the body?
It's like thunder and lightning.
It shocks the body, okay, because your body is hot. Especially if you're running 100-degree heat, you just ran 10 miles, okay, your internal body temperature is probably well over 100, okay, it's way above 98.6, which is somewhere normal around that, okay, so it's way elevated, your internal temperature, somewhere around 100 degrees, and then you put 40-degree water on it. Okay? That's very much so a shock. So either start with a warm shower if you have to shower right away, but most of the time it's best to give that cool down period, to have some type of cool down stretching, or maybe some light exercises, or just take a break, get a drink of water and do some stretching, so that it allows not only your muscles to adapt back to normal activity, but your heart to get back to normal rate, your internal temperature to be able to start coming back down to normal. And now again, that's if your body's in good shape. In the second half of this course this year, we'll get into first aid and talk about heat stroke and heat-related illnesses. Now, there's things that you do if someone has a heat-related illness that you normally wouldn't do, just to save their life. But we're not talking about life-saving things here. We're talking about normal processes if your body's in normal, good shape. So, excuse me. Okay, the last couple principles here. We'll get through all these today. The long-term training principle. The body improves gradually, and so should our goals and expectations. Long-term training. Remember my little chart here? The body improves gradually, and so should our goals and training. Remember what we were talking about earlier with adaptation and progression? It's kind of an additional principle focused on those two things. Long-term training. The body improves gradually, it adapts, and so should our goals and expectations, progression. So both things, this principle combines both adaptation and progression now. So your body's adapting and the training's adapting to a long-term goal. Okay? So the body improves gradually, and so should our goals and training. Research has shown that champion athletes typically train 8 to 10 years before reaching their performance peak. These are champion athletes train 8 to 10 years before reaching their performance peak. So it's a long process. Okay? And we need to set our goals that way too. A lot of young athletes can be pushed by over-ambitious coaches, and it can end up hurting them. It can kill them. And the other thing that isn't as devastating is that they just lose interest altogether, and they give up because it's too difficult, and it's not worth it to them. But yeah, the most important one is you don't want to hurt them. And it's a big balance, right? Because there's a place of, okay, is this student just complaining and I can keep pushing him, or is this hurting him and I need to back off? Because remember the overload principle? So we're trying to push them more than what they're able to do because we want them to get better. But then you also have to pay attention to each individual student, each individual athlete to say, and they need to be honest too, because all of us complain. Okay, we all complain. Oh man, I don't want to do any more of this or whatever. But in order to get better, you got to keep doing more things. But you also have to be honest to say, something's not right. This is hurting or that's hurting, and you have to be forthright with the coach or the instructor. And you need to remember that too if you're ever in the process of coaching.
If it's a small injury and the student doesn't tell the coach right away and keeps on pushing fear of losing his position, it could lead to long-term injury.
It could lead to long-term injury, right?
Heal that
Right.
Couple games.
Yeah. See, there's the thing of you want to always be forthright of saying, hey, I'm dealing with this, so that the coaches know. But then the coach also has to process, okay, is this just a complaining student? Does this person complain about everything? I've had to ask that before with some injuries. We had a ski day one year when actually I think three of our students went down, and the one was complaining about their arm, and I asked their siblings, their brothers and sisters, do they normally complain and whine a lot? And they said, no, never. Okay, I knew it was serious at that point, because you also need to base, okay, who is this person? What is their personality, so that I can know, okay, they're not complaining. Something's hurting them, and I need to pay attention to that. And so, as an athlete, you need to be honest with your coach, but at the same time, too, you also, I don't want to complain about everything. There are times where you need to push through things, but then there are times too that if it becomes a consistent problem, that you need to take a look at that and lay off so it doesn't become a long-term problem. So there's a lot of balance, because you need to overload, but then at the same time too, you're looking for long-term goals, and sometimes these things level out. Sometimes you'll level out, okay, and you'll stay right here for a while. And that's probably the most frustrating, because you're still training, you're still doing things, but your body's leveling out. It could be your maturity level. It could be just your body in the adaptation process. It's adapted, and it needs time to catch up just to stay at this level. And then obviously if injuries or things happen, okay, sometimes you can go back to where you were. Sometimes you can go further. Maybe you got an injury and you kept eating the same that you're now used to eating, but you're not doing any exercise for 3 months because you broke your leg. So then all of a sudden you pick up extra weight, and all this, so now you're back down here. So does this stay the same, or does now this back up? It's going to have to back up. Okay, so your long-term goals now just get extended because of an injury or something like that. So you have to adjust things as well. Let's right into the 9th principle, reversibility. Most of the adaptations stimulated by training are reversible. Okay, most of them can be reversed back. In other words, like we said here, if we stop training, what happens? I start going back to where I was. Okay, so that's what reversibility means. Most of the adaptations or the changes that my body's making because of the training, most of them, okay, are reversible, which means they're going to go backwards if I stop training. So we need to maintain the process of training if we're going for this goal up here. If at any time that we stop the training, we're not just going to stay here. Okay, that's the thing to remember. So the reversibility means if I stop training, this is where I was. Okay, if I'm training. Now I stop training for whatever reason, a lack of desire, injury, something like that. Am I going to stay here? More than likely, no. More than likely, I'm going to start progressing back down. Now, maybe because I've matured in the process, maybe it's going to be a little more elevated than what it was when I finally stop. But there will be a point if I stop training that I'm going to keep going back down, and that's reversibility. You're going to reverse and start going back to where you were.
When you spin a wheel, when you stop, it just slowly stops.
Yeah, it slowly stops spinning. So in other words, sometimes you look at athletes, and again, these are professional athletes that have been training for 8 to 10 years or more. They've been training for a long time. So if they take 2 weeks off, is it really going to hurt them? Probably not. Okay, they've been doing this for 8 to 10 years. Their body's so used to it, taking a couple weeks off isn't going to be a substantial loss. Taking the whole winter off, for a baseball player or something like that, 3 months, okay, you're going to lose stuff. Whether it's gaining extra weight or losing some of the muscle memory, some things like that. So you also have to remember that. So you can, reversibility is basically you can lose the things that you gained if you stop training. Okay, so pay attention to that. Okay, and the last principle is moderation. The secret to long-term success is moderation in all things. Isn't that a spiritual principle as well? What's the Bible say about that? Moderation in all things. Whether it's what we eat, how much sleep we get, how much exercise we do. Yes, exercise is good, but can we do too much? Yeah, we talked about in some of our reading, like the gymnasts or things like that. If you focus way too much on exercise, you can hurt your body. You can hurt the development of your body, especially as teenagers and those just starting the maturity process. If you have too much of a focus on exercise or training, you can hurt your own body. And if you're a coach, you can hurt your students by requiring too much training on them. So moderation. Keep it in perspective. Keep the training in perspective. Make sure that athletes have the chance to make all their family commitments, fill school requirements, their different social relationships. And as your athletes become more skilled, okay, you may actually need to start imposing some training regulations or limits as well, because anything can be addictive, right? Even good things, okay? The philosophy of eating an apple a day can keep the doctor away, but if all you eat is apples, can you hurt your body? Yes. It's not going to get the nutrition it needs in other things, and eating apples all the time can actually hurt your digestive system and eating with other stuff. But if all you eat is apples, right? We're talking about moderation. Okay, that is definitely not moderation. So if you see if you're an athlete yourself, or you see an athlete that is really so focused on training, their skill is improving, they're getting better. Now you may, as a coach, actually need to impose some regulations and some limits to what they're doing so that they don't hurt themselves. Because they are gung-ho, they are motivated, and you need to pay attention to that and say, you know what, you need to don't do anything on Sunday. Don't do anything over the weekend. You need days to take some time off to let your body recover and just go do some fun things rather than doing sports all the time, because it's something that you have to be careful. You can become addicted to anything, even if it's good things. And so some of those things can actually be counterproductive, because if an athlete is so motivated, they can actually hurt their body and hurt themselves, or not allow their body to get enough rest to keep. You might see them flatline like that. They might actually go level, or maybe even come down a little bit because they're not getting enough sleep. Or maybe they think I'm still getting my 8 hours of sleep. But if all they're doing every day is exercising and training, then you need more and more sleep, more and more rest to keep up with all that training that they're doing. And so some of those things need to be paid attention to. Okay, and we will wrap up. The last two elements of this chapter that are important are talking about what's the difference between muscular fitness and energy fitness. What's the muscular system as opposed to the energy system? And why would we train differently for those things?
Muscular is like
Powerlifting.
Okay, lifting, powerlifting, you're focusing on gaining muscle.
Energy is
What's
like
energy?
Energy fitness is jogging, learning how to.
It's like your endurance.
A lot of the endurance type of things.
endurance training.
Okay, and some people have different types of training. You look at what are a lot of the, if I'm taking an aerobic exercise class at the local gym, okay, what are they focusing on in that class? Are they focusing on getting bigger and stronger and faster? No, they're focusing on, some people are trying to cut weight, okay, so they're in there trying to cut weight, so I'm focusing on getting better aerobic, which means I'm able to use, aerobic means being able to use oxygen, okay, that's really exactly what it means. And you're needing to be able to, your system needs to be able to use oxygen better. And so with muscular fitness, there's different types of training. It consists of strength, muscular endurance, power, speed, flexibility, balance, agility. It's focusing on all those things that you're going to need in the sport. And the energy fitness focuses upon the cardiovascular system. Okay, it's focusing on the aerobic and the anaerobic, long jogging, short intense, sprints. So the energy is focused more on your body being able to last, and then the muscular is focused upon the power, strength, speed, flexibility, balance. So those are the two types of things and they go hand in hand, but you may have, depending on what you need for your exercise training program, you're going to have maybe a little more strength training as opposed to energy training in your sport. As take football and soccer. You take a football training program, and what are they probably going to have more things in there for? Muscular or energy? More muscular. What about soccer?
More energy.
Hardly any muscular, right? You don't need to be big and now yes, you need to have certain strength areas, but you need to be able to run forever and run fast. Okay? Now, yes, you have to have strength in certain areas, so there will be strength training in with it. But football, they have the muscular fitness and they have the energy fitness, because in order to be that fast running back, okay, you look at the sprinters in the Olympics, and are they bean poles, skinny guys?
No, they're pretty good.
No, I always say they look like running backs because they're big and they're strong. because their training program is both muscular and energy. And so it's a focus on gaining muscle so that I can increase my energy. So those are the main differences. The muscular and energy fitness are the two combined areas that we're going to be focusing on now throughout our discussions. So anaerobic, the words aerobic and anaerobic. Anaerobic really means without oxygen. So what's an anaerobic type of exercise? Sprints. That you're not able to breathe real well, right? You're not able to get a lot of oxygen. I'm sprinting and my lungs are, you have to stop at a certain point because your lungs are going to explode. And that's really accurate. Your lungs will explode and shut down if they don't have enough oxygen. Or you'll pass out. And it also then works into heart-related things. That's why some people have heart attacks, because there's not enough oxygen in the blood and the heart has complications and things happen. So anaerobic is without oxygen, aerobic is with oxygen. So those are the anaerobic is short and intense, aerobic is endurance and long. And those go under the energy fitness area. So okay, next time we'll get into more of the individual differences. We're going to focus on the individual differences among athletes. I know you did a lot of the reading this time on those things. And again, I want to encourage everyone, if you have questions about things, there are some brief paragraphs in our reading that talk about some specific differences between guys and girls and the way our bodies change through the maturing process. If you have questions about those things, please go to your mom or dad, depending. I'm dealing with young men here, so please go to your dad if you have questions about some of the reading that you have. We want to handle things maturely, but I know you might have questions about some of the things with the reading, and we're not going to delve into those type of things in this class. We're going to talk about, because we have differences, here's how we train, and those type of things. But if you have questions about that, please talk to your dad about those things. And if you have any other concerns, you can see me after class. Okay. So we'll get into some of those specific things, the differences between athletes and how we handle things through the maturing process. That'll be next time. Reading for this, your assignments for this next time due on our next class, October 23rd. We'll be reading of chapter 3 in the strength training book, and reading of chapters 3 and 4 in the sport physiology book. And again, we will have a quiz as well over the major things that you read. So if you think it's important and you're taking notes when you read, then you might want to highlight that, because if you think it's important, then I probably will too. So, okay, well, let's pray, and then we'll dismiss, because I know our time's up. Father, thank you for this day. I thank you for your word, and that you encourage us, Lord, that you're in control, and you've made us all for a reason and a purpose. So, Lord, give us wisdom, give us direction, and help us, so that we can bring glory to your name and not be selfish with the things that you've given us. And we just thank you for our families and ask you to bless us now. In Jesus' name, amen.